Trade Efficiency with NACFE's Mike Roth and Friends.
In episode 114, we hear from Jason Morgan. He's the content director at Fleet Equipment Magazine, where we talk about how the pandemic shaped Fleet Equipment's direction and his move from magazine editor to digital content producer. He also talks about his desire to tell a great story, what keeps him in trucking, and his impressions of ACT Expo. He also shares his thoughts on what it's going to take to get us through the next several years. We have joining us today Jason Morgan. Jason's content director at Fleet Equipment. I guess I can still say magazine. I don't know that. Maybe that's a question I want to ask you. But Jason, thanks for joining me today. I'm real excited to talk to you. It's going to be fun and interesting, and maybe we'll each learn something, and the audience as well. So I'm glad to have you on.
Always great to talk to you too. I'm usually on the other side, so I'm a little nervous. This is one of my first times being on the hot seat.
You have to be a friend to be on this podcast, and but do you remember how we met and became friends, or what might have triggered us getting to know one another?
We've talked for a long time now. I mean, you're always a trade show staple at the press conferences, right? NACFE's always doing something interesting. So I looked back. I was like, how long have we been doing content with you guys? The first story I have that has my byline and your quotes, I'll take it back to December 9th, 2015. And it was a story on trailer fuel saving technology, which I feel like was maybe the second. Was that the second NACFE?
Yeah. So we were started in 2010, and I think we did tire pressure systems and some aerodynamics back like 2012 or 13, but we had a period right then in 2015 where, we were partnering up with the Carbon War Room, which was a Richard Branson effort. We put out a confidence report like every 6 or 8 weeks during the 2014, 15.
Right.
We were really working hard and quick. And that's when we put up the first like significant, or we had a website, we were doing some stuff, but those days with Branson kind of involved, we were doing a lot of quick research on some of these things, and it was also important because fuel prices were staying high and everybody's curious as to what we do. So when I was introducing you, I kind of stumbled on magazine a little bit, but tell us about Fleet Equipment. What's the niche in the truck media world of Fleet Equipment? And I was ready to call you a magazine. Do we still talk magazine, or are these media outlets or multimedia outlets, or what? What's the best way to describe this world now of where we're at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there too. So on the and it's funny too, right? Because first of all, appreciate the plug, right? Because the website's Fleet Equipment mag.com, which speaks to the magazine heritage. But we, what do we say? Sunset, the print product. I want to say December 2020 was the last print issue we did. And then going into 21 was all digital. I mean, that was a strange time for everybody, right? The rate at which news was moving due to the pandemic was more conducive to online publication. We were doing a lot of it. We're doing a lot of podcasts like these and video conversations. I mean, that's something else I saw. We had talked about Run on Less Electric back in November 21. I think that was one of the first year of video interviewing, right? Because we had to become from a magazine editor to a digital content producer, right? So yeah, we're still covering the industry. The way in which we cover it's a little different. You mentioned video. I always grab you for video because you're always good for that and always have great information. Do a ton of video and just try to, in some ways, it's helped us be more present in the industry. There's always something to talk about. There's always something going on. To be able to do that at a faster, more efficient pace has been good, but it definitely has changed the landscape in which we kind of approach content for sure.
Yeah. So do you have a journalism background? Are you a writer first? Or tell us a little bit about Jason.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, journalism background. Graduated with a degree in journalism and English. Really wanted to get into writing. I had actually started college on the broadcast side and thought, you know what, I like this writing thing better. So I'm based in Akron, Ohio. Northeast Ohio has a pretty good contingent of B2B publishers. which is something they don't tell you coming out of school. They don't tell you what B2B is. It's all newspapers and kind of other consumer type magazines, but I kind of fell into B2B right out of school, wrote for the construction industry for a number of years, did a small stint in real estate, and that was wild right after just after the '08 crash, and then fell in with Fleet Equipment about 12 years ago. Kind of came back to the equipment world on trucking. Very much kind of like my roots in the construction world. Good people, equipment's fun.
You brought up broadcasting, so let's paint a picture a minute. And I got a reason for doing this. I was thinking about what you and I could talk about. But if you think on the spectrum of like journalism, writing, how important words are in storytelling, then you go clear out to the right, maybe, and the other end of the spectrum I'm bringing up, and you've got broadcasting, right? Maybe like news, or as we think about, a news broadcaster, either something at an anchor desk, bringing up stories with people in the field and so forth, but, really a interview. Describe that, the two ends of that, and then let's talk about the middle a little bit, because NACFE, we were from day one, we were like, we're gonna write things, we're gonna have a lot of pictures, we're gonna have websites, but we're gonna use interviews and videos well. And so I've got some thoughts about that. But before we go there, just like in your career, or as you think about pure words and writing and journalism versus, you know, uh, broadcasting and like on-air interviews and so forth, kind of, could you compare and contrast those a bit for us and me?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, and I gotta we're just keeping up with you guys because you guys do a ton of video and they're all really, really fantastic. I mean, I check those out all the time. It's great stuff. But it's funny. It's kind of this evolution, right? I guess my view of it now, because you asked an interesting question. It is different. I think the way people consume media now in the digital world is different. I don't. Let's put it this way. I just want to focus on the story we're going to go tell, right? I want to go tell a great story. I want to be able to take people into places that they're not going to get to go into, right? I mean, working with you all and getting the insight into what you all do. I mean, you mentioned App Expo earlier, the breakfast you had, and bringing all the fleets in there to talk about Run on Less and what you're going to go do there. Fantastic insight, right? I want to be able to bring people into that. And if that's through written means, video means, which is kind of the thing we're focused on today on video, that's just kind of the approach. I'm gonna worry about what the story is first.
I think we all learn better, the old saying, if you want to really learn something, you got to teach it, or something like that.
Yeah.
I think we all do learn better when we have different ways of consuming the materials, right? So I've become a bigger reader later in life than I was in my 20s and 30s. In my 50s and 60s, I've been
Yeah.
reading a lot more. So I've started to appreciate reading, and actually even don't tell anybody, Jason, although there's a lot of people going to watch this. I've actually started writing. I've been more comfortable with writing. Let me say it that way. I've always struggled as a writer.
Oh, man.
I'm more into pictures and videos and that sort of thing. But I think, and then I get frustrated with the short video, right? Well, we got to condense this down to 45 seconds or something. I can't do that in 45 seconds. But I do think whether it's infographics, pictures, written word, interviews, and video, I mean, I think when we get like that 360 of different ways to sort of point at the same topic, that gives us deeper learning. But I also think that we each have kind of a come from. We joke at NACFE, Denise is the words person, James and I do the videos, and Kim does the infographics. So, we all have, I think, a home base, maybe that we're most comfortable in taking in stories, but it's always good if we come at it from different ways. Does that make sense to you? Is that kind of what you view it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll point to Run on Less as a really cool example of that, because the videos are always great, always slick, super well produced, really engaging. But then when the way you guys put together the data on the site, right? It does feel very alive to some degree, right? Data is kind of a hard thing. It's interesting to people that are interested in it, and other people, their eyes glaze over real quick when you throw a bunch of data at them. But the way that you all have approached it when you're presenting that Run on Less, where you can kind of interact with it, see how it relates to what the guys are saying on the video, see how it relates to what you've written up. I think it's a nice example of how you pull all that together.
What's kept you in the business now for well half of your career or more? I mean, and what is it about trucking that we all kind of fondly talk about when we talk about our industry?
Yeah, for sure. Well, okay. So, I mean, my answer is cliche, right? Cliche and repetitive, but I feel very true. It's all the people we're hiring. We're going through the hiring process. We're bringing on editors from a Babcock's Media. So we have Fleet Equipment is just a part of a larger company that has 18 different automotive brands. We get that question, right? When you're interviewing someone and you're seeing if they're a fit for the job, and they ask you, well, trucking, what do you like about trucking? It always comes back to the people. I always have a line I say that, like, look, because I've worked in other industries. In this industry, there is no one that I'll see at a trade show and like turn around and walk the other way. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
just like no one that you're looking to avoid. Everyone you
Yeah.
meet is really great. Everyone you develop not just working relationships, but real friendships with people in the industry, right? It's an industry that is trying to do the best practices, right? The equipment development and technology, I think, has really grown and even exploded here in the past 5, 6 years. So it's been really fun to watch. But going back to it's connecting with the people.
So I've asked that question a lot, and I'm probably like, subconsciously coming up with my aggregated answer from asking dozens of people that, I think
Yeah.
at the heart of it, we do important work. I mean, we're getting food, clothing, essentials.
Right.
I mean, you can't have a thriving economy and a good quality of life without good transportation of goods, and trucking is a big part of that. So I think at the end of the day, we create a reliable, durable freight movement system. We pay attention to costs because we also buy all this stuff, so we want to keep costs low. But then we also just take on other challenges. We took on pollutant emissions for clean air with NOx and PM. Now we're taking on greenhouse gas and decarbonization. And even though we're maybe low risk because we don't want to upset our, low cost, reliable transportation, but we also can deal with changes and so forth. And then I think that then maybe is the cause for just being trusting each other and collaborating a lot and getting along and working on problems together. I think we've been given, you go back in time, way back to deregulation of trucking and other things. It's been a big challenge after challenge after challenge. Once you've been through a few of those, you come to trust each other and have a rapport.
And I don't know if it's low risk, right? And I think what we're coming back to as an industry too is really just that business specking sense, right? What's going to make sense for the business? What's going to move the needle? We were touching on margins earlier. Margins are crazy thin for everybody, right? And so if it comes down to that ROI, it's that business sense of it where maybe we've kind of, as an industry, have kind of gotten away from that a little bit in the past 3
Yeah, but it's always there.
years.
It's always there of just like, what's this going to cost us? What's this going to cost our customers? How our shippers are going to handle it and so forth. So let's get around to Act Expo. It was about a month ago or 3 weeks ago. I mean, I think it was a reflection of the times. We had, even like urgent short-term issues of tariffs were hanging in the air all over the place, but also the messy middle of all these technologies. I mean, do you have any kind of interesting ahas, or did it all just kind of make sense? Because I think I'm on the latter side of that. But what's your reflections?
No, I am too, for sure. So this will sound horrible. I mean it in a very nice, positive way. Because walking around the show, people ask you, well, what have you seen? What's the big new thing? And I'm like, no, I'm like, you know what? It's boring, kind of, in a good way, because it means that people are talking about business. Because guess what? Real business is probably boring, right? Like making the dollar, getting the job done, doing it as efficiently as possible is not like the hip social media craze type thing. It's what really moves the industry, like you were saying earlier too, right? So I was really encouraged, one, that um, all the Act Expo, all the solutions were on the table and they were all getting talked about in a very real business, boring way. I applaud Act Expo for really widening the conversation, acknowledging and bringing diesel into the fold, right? We had diesel trucks on the show floor. I think that's all a part of it. So I mean, I thought it was a great step.
Yeah, I think we're past kind of the hype of these things, and we're also past the. So you got the promoters, and I'll be real general here, but the promoters are hyping things, and the opponents are, criticizing them, and sometimes they don't even want to hear the other side. And I think now we're kind of past that. I think hydrogen's still a little bit of not sure about things, but I think we now know the questions to ask. You said, we're into the business of them. Out of that will come, okay, well, this works for me and this doesn't work for me, and we'll feel like we're becoming less messy.
Yeah, well, and I think you're spot on. I'm interested to see how the run pans out too, and really how you bring going back to that data thing, right? How you make apples to apples out of this, or even let's understand this is an apple and this is an orange, because there's something I think about and talk to folks about on this decarbonization side is that it's running more efficient, burning less fuel, but is there a value to the reduced emissions, right? You see some OEMs starting to talk about the amount of emissions you're saving or not emitting by buying new trucks. Is there business value there in and of itself? So I think your the run will speak of that.
I think that's a good point. It comes to mind that I've been speaking now about. I've been using the analogy of restaurants and menus, right? You can have, right? If you just look at the, some restaurants have like 6-page menus, and the meatloaf's right next to the T-bones and right next to the fish and chicken, and you're like, oh my God, sometimes it's a pasta, sometimes it's this. I think that's very confusing. But if you just sort of get yourself into different modes or different parts of it and focus, and then to your point, and I've never brought it up before, I'll try it out on you, but from a measurement standpoint, some of those have higher calorie intent. Some of them are,
Right.
more pleasing to eat. Some of them are this or that, carbs and so forth. So it's,
Right.
there's not going to be a clear, easy answer here. Some of it's going to be, how much do you want to decarbonize? How much do you want to spend on the equipment or the infrastructure? It's a lot of different things. So, but I'm confident we'll figure this out. All of us don't need to figure it all out. We just need to figure it out for our own business, whether you're, short haul, long haul, or whatever.
So, okay, I got a question for you. I'm gonna kick one to you.
All right.
You're on the front edge of a lot of the technologies. I mean, you said 18 I didn't even realize it was that high. That's a ton of confidence reports and different technologies you're kicking the tires on. We have gone through a period where there has been some hype, I think. How do you stay grounded? What brings you back? I mean, actually, you have to prove out this stuff. What keeps you grounded?
Yeah. It's a similar question I get from people. I just spoke yesterday with the CTO of Ryder, and he asked me a similar question. His was kind of like, well, what's I've read NACV's work, I've seen your videos and so forth. Yeah, how do you do it? Was his question. What's the secret sauce?
Oh,
Of
yeah,
NACV?
right.
And I think I'll tell you what I think it is. One, we have a pretty knowledgeable staff, so a bunch of us have been in the trucking industry a long time. There's like 15 consultants working at NACV right now, and I would, if you added up the amount of years we've been in the trucking industry, it would be like jaw dropping. So we know kind of what we're doing. We sort of know how to ask, but I think we also talk to the right people. So we get to the early adopters, we get to the companies that are manufacturing things for them that have some use and some knowledge, and that they're working with the research firms and other things. So we don't get too caught up in, well, you got to do big surveys and you got to talk to the opponents and the opponents and proponents, and you got to get this wide group of data driven stuff. No, we just talk to the people that are really smart about things. And then I think the NACV team has a real good sense, probably starting with me, like, but has a real good sense of when people are, who not only what I said with who knows what they're talking about, but that are really grounded in the information and data
Right.
and not sort of BS in everybody. So I think we have a good sense of the quality of the feedback we're getting, and then we can utilize that in our system of analyzing the data, coming up with findings, doing reports, infographics, and that sort of thing. So, yeah, the way we go about it in a real good sense of what the industry needs, and then being able to characterize what people are telling us and how they're telling us. And really, some of it's like language, the how a researcher at the DOE or at one of the DOE labs talks about things and thinks about is quite different than the maintenance person that might be talking about the same technology at some fleet depot in Des Moines, Iowa. So we're able to like translate the language and the experience in a way that then we can aggregate and come up with some ideas on direction and how people should look at things. So it's a good question, and but I think it's not just the sort of technical aspects of things, but it's like gauging how the industry's talking about it. Even to the point of are they excited or not, or how they talk about it, not just what they're saying. Every day is something new, Jason, from tariffs to decarbonization to regulations to lots of things. And we're not the only. The world's been sort of moving into fast-paced adjustments and here and there and whatever, but it sure feels crazy right now, right? And we keep hearing the word uncertainty, and I bet if I did a word search on your articles, you probably said uncertainty quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. I certainly have. What's going to get us through the next couple of years? And maybe we'll close with, how do you suggest all of those listeners kind of handle these times, particular to trucking?
What's interesting now, so spoiler alert to some of the stuff I'm digging into now. When there's uncertainty, there's some people standing still, and I think that opens up some opportunity, depending on how you look at it, right? Depending on what your tolerance for some risk is, and what you can do, and kind of relationships you can build and work on. So there is a lot of uncertainty. No one knows kind of how the business will shake out. But the fleet and trucking world abides. It delivers the world to people. If you bought it, what's the phrase, right? If you bought it in a store and it came in a truck, right? You don't even have to go to the store anymore. The truck's just coming to your house and dropping it off. So there'll always be a need. Uncertainty. I saw the latest trailer order numbers as well, and they're not great. But maybe it opens up some opportunity if you know where to look. And those are the things that we're looking at now. Is like, okay, if you got a market where a lot of players are standing still, that's great. Maybe you stand still. Maybe you look for a place you can move into.
Yeah, no, that's very good. And I think listening to you, I think back to, we also don't have to figure it out for everybody. We kind of got to figure it out for ourselves. That whole get outside of your box. Well, okay, get outside of your box, but we each don't have to do it all. So figure out what our role is, get a little bigger in our role, take some risks, and then adjust. So yeah. Hey, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you being on.
Mike, I appreciate it. Always happy to be called a friend on the podcast. You and NACFE have always been a good friend to me in fleet equipment, so thanks for the opportunity.
Freight Efficiency with NACFE's Mike Rosen Friends.